Welcome back to Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the only podcast of comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me today I got the Comic Book Nation team of Matthew Aguilar, Janelle Wheeler, and joining us for the first time in a long time, and maybe the last time in a long time, is Mr. Charlie Ridgely. Turn up, Charlie is back.
Hi,
Charlie. Hey, how are you guys?
And we had to bring Charlie back because Charlie helps us. We couldn't get him on for Joker 2. He was busy. He's a busy guy these days. He's doing serious life stuff. But we could get him back for something completely unserious, which is, of course, Venom, The Last Dance. Venom. You need 3 of those because this is the 3rd Venom film. Tom Hardy's closing out the trilogy. And Charlie and I hadn't seen Charlie in a long time for a screening, but we ended up at the Venom 3 screening together. And man, we both came out of it looking some kind of way. I was hoping to get my buddy and our new kind of boss over here, Ben Kendrick, on here because the first time I saw a Venom movie was me, Ben, and Rob Keys, my old Screen Rant buddies, where we went to see this during New York Comic Con 2018 when it came out. So, yeah, this has been a long, crazy road that Venom has taken. Pre-pandemic, through pandemic, post-pandemic, his whole Venom saga. But let's get to it and just tell you that I did the review for Venom, The Last Dance. I gave it 2 stars. I'm not sure if Charlie would have even gone that high, but yeah, this movie sucked. This movie sucked, bro. Like, we love the Venom series here, too. So don't even come at us like we're haters or we don't understand or we want an MCU movie. No. We were the camp of people that said, look, just give us like some crazy final buddy romance comedy of Tom Hardy and the Venom symbiote just rolling around talking to each other, and we'd be fine with that. Instead, we got like another Sony hack job feeling, like where it feels like half of this movie was cut out and just thrown on the editing room floor. Entire characters are just thrown out and editing on the editing room floor. Yet, like, I mean, Jesus, don't like be a black character in one of these movies because you will get like 10 seconds of screen time and no explanation whether you're Tyrese or Chiwetel or Gia4 or, you know, any of Homegirls and Madam Web. So, you know, that continues here. And yeah, we get a weird 2000s comic book movie that takes a lot of the fun out of this whole, you know, the Venom Eddie stuff isn't as fun in this one. I mean, this movie, I was even just talking to Charlie during it. They just do some of the most obvious things to just kind of like cut down on budget and cut down on like actual venoming, and kind of everything about it just feels slapdash and half-assed, and it's just a disappointing end. There's even a montage at the end of this that I was cracking up about. I've been talking about. It is basically, it shows you a montage of all the Venom movies, and it's like doing one of those like TikToks where you see like they're cutting between different scenes of Eddie like throughout each film, and you can just see like Tom Hardy's face go from like lively and energetic in the first movie to by this one just like dead in the eyes and disheveled, like just tired of this whole thing. And it's just like, yeah, it's weird. But at the same time, this movie is a finale to Venom, but it also sets up a whole bigger Venom universe. So it's like, I don't even know how to feel about it being The Last Dance. Charlie, you want to weigh in here and just kind of like...
I wrote about a thing that's going live this weekend, kind of like, is this the end of it? And we'll kind of get into that, I think, a little bit. But, you know, I think I would have put 2 stars on this too. I don't think it's the worst movie ever made. But I'm someone who I've been a really vocal supporter of the Venom movies from the beginning. Like you mentioned, you know, I've had a lot of fun with this franchise, and I've liked most of the Sony stuff. You know, anyone who knows me knows I love a Madam Web. You know, this is just I've enjoyed what these movies have brought to the table for the most part. You know, Morbius is kind of the bottom of the barrel there. This one, I really, you know, if you watch the Venom franchise from the beginning, you had this first movie where it felt like Tom Hardy was the only person in the room who got it. You had this guy being really weird and wacky and doing something crazy in the middle of this movie where everyone's trying to make like a serious, you know, early 2000s superhero blockbuster. Like it totally didn't fit, but there was so much of the Tom Hardy Venom stuff at the center of it that I really enjoyed it anyway. And then there was an evolution with Let There Be Carnage where they realized what was going on with Tom Hardy and they said, okay, well, let's get a bunch of crazy to match his crazy. So then we get Woody Harrelson and Andy Serkis and they make this whole movie that's just insane. And every bit of it, like all of the stories in it are weird and wacky and goofy, and some of the parts are bad, but it doesn't really matter because to me, you're having fun the whole time. It's just a weird, wild ride. And then this kind of goes backwards and goes back into what we had in that first movie, where there's trying to be a serious film around Venom. But in this one, there's less Venom than there was in the first one. So it felt really frustrating to not have as much of the whole Venom Eddie relationship thing. Because in this movie, there are scenes where you do get that, and when you do, it's wonderful. I love it when it's Eddie and Venom on screen. Like the thing that's playing right now, the whole scene in Vegas was a lot of fun. Venom has some great one-liners. The whole thing with Mrs. Chen I thought was hilarious. You know, when they do like their buddy comedy thing, their rom-com thing, whatever you want to call it, those moments I really love. But they are few and far between compared to, again, what we had in Let There Be Carnage, where that was kind of the tone of the whole thing. It feels like a big step backwards and a really frustrating thing when I think that they showed from 1 to 2 that they were listening and they saw what was wrong with the first one and they adjusted to it. And then we just have abandoned that progress to kind of work backwards for this. It's really disjointed tonally. And there are I think I said this to Kofi, it might not have been you, it might have been somebody else, but you know, it's a lot of those Godzilla, Kong movies. One of the complaints is like, oh man, the people storylines suck. Like, we love the monsters, they're so cool, we love these monster bits, but there's all these people storylines, and there's so much Kyle Chandler, and like there's these plots that are just overly serious with these scientists, these military people, and you're just like, it's nonsense and it's not interesting. But so much of the movie is that. That's kind of how this felt. Where there's these with Juno Temple and Chiwetel Ejiofor, like there's these plots that are just, they don't make sense. They are way too serious. It does not work. But that's predominantly what the movie's trying to do. Whereas if we could have just had a road trip of Eddie and Venom, like stick Tom Hardy in a car and let him talk to himself for 2 hours while he's running away from aliens across the country, perfect movie. 10 out of 10. I love it. Probably way cheaper too. But now we have this, which we have Juno Temple, who, I love Juno Temple. Her character doesn't make any sense here. She's a scientist who got electrocuted from lightning, and her brother died, and so she quotes a thunder thing, and that never really matters, but it's supposed to matter.
I didn't even know we were having a chat. I didn't even know her arm was paralyzed in the movie. She has a paralyzed arm, and I had no idea.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, her arm, and that's at the end, like that's why she can do this when she has the venom. It doesn't matter. It is stupid.
And it's chill. Stop spoiling the movie for people before you get us in trouble, man. You show up here like once. Stop getting us in trouble. But it doesn't make sense. Is your point? Like, yeah, it is confounding how many things this movie throws at you and just never answers. Like, I thought it was hilarious that it's not really a spoiler to say that Noel, like seeing Noel is saved as this epic treat throughout the whole movie. You just see him in emo, head bent, like the things you see. Whose smoke alarm is that? Charlie, is that you?
I believe so, and I'm not sure.
Are you okay?
Venom is just on fire.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Everything sounds fine out there.
I mean, we joke around here, but we want to make sure you evacuate. Don't die for Venom 3, please.
No, we're fine.
All right, good. Noel, you don't even see Noel. Like, Noel is head bent through most of this movie, which makes absolutely no gosh darn sense in the universe to like throw some villain at mainstream viewers and then just be like, well, we're not going to really show you who this is. Like, why do that? But he's like running things throughout the whole movie, so there are constant cutbacks to him. And like everything about it is just so dumb. The symbiote.
Oh, so they pulled a Zack Snyder.
Not even like I'm trying to like it's like if Marvel did Thanos the dumbest way possible, right? Like at the end of Avengers, you see Thanos, and if you got that, if you even knew to stay back for that, then you probably knew. And if you were just like a casual fan, you didn't care because it wasn't part of the movie. Nothing like hinged on it, right? Like you saw the cloaked guy, you saw Loki, and you're like, okay. This is like if at the beginning of Avengers, you just see a dude in a chair from the back who's like, go kill the Earthlings. And we keep getting scenes back with him, but they never show you who he is until that final scene. And then he just turns around.
Well, and when they smiles. Do, there's like, it's played like a giant reveal, but it's like, we know from the beginning who it is. They say his name. We know it's Null. It's not a surprise because they say his name through the whole movie. So then you think that the big face reveal is going to be like, oh, we're going to find out who's playing Null, and it's this huge thing. And when you see him, it's like, okay, I don't know who that could. And then you have to wait until the credits to read, and you're like, oh, that suit that. You don't get it from the reveal of what they do. You don't like.
Oh my lord!
It doesn't get you.
It's CGI, like it's just mocap.
Yeah,
it's a mocap face.
All mocap. And
Boo,
so then when you see it, you're like, oh, okay, that's fine. And there's just. It's not really worth all the waiting. I really enjoyed the first Null scene. It set at the beginning of the movie that sets everything up. I thought it was really like it was a fun way to put it all together. It was kind of mysterious. Like it set the tone for the movie, I think, in a good way. But then we just like never came back to it until the end, and then we're like, oh, so you were worthless. And I guess there's quotes from Kelly Marcel, the director, talking about how like Null's not the big bad of this movie. Because he's more than a one-off movie villain. It seems like they're going to set him up for all this
which
stuff.
Is true.
Like,
which is good. But I agree with that part.
He's very much the big bad of the movie. He's very much the movie's villain.
Yeah.
He's just not like gone after this.
Yeah, but it's just also, it's very weird because it like I said, Venom 3 feels like let's cut every corner just to complete this trilogy. So like Null is the big bad, but it'd be like if you saw Avengers Infinity War and Thanos never came out. It was just he just kept sending the Black Order, not even the Black Order, just those weird demon dog things in the Battle of Wakanda. If Thanos just sent those out to do everything, like throughout the whole movie, that would be the equivalent of what this is. And for much of this, it's just one of those things that they can't deal with. And then at the finale, we get like 5 of them. So it's just like, how are we ever going to deal with any of this? And it's just confounding about like what the threat is. So there's a chase. So like Venom's on the run from that, but there's also a plot device where the MacGuffin Null needs is with Venom, obviously. But if Venom dies, like then it's lost. So like now, human organization,
it's in Venom's like DNA, basically. Like
so like it's a codex. If you know your symbiote stuff, it's a codex. So like so there's a human organization now shooting at him because they're like, we can stop this whole thing if we just get rid of this one guy. Null wants the codex, they want to kill him, and Venom's on the run in the middle, right? So you think would be like a pretty fair premise that we all saw in the trailers. We're like, okay, a road trip with Venom and Eddie on the run. We just saw Bad Boys. We've seen this before. The Fugitive, like this can be fun, right? But it's not fun, like at all. It's just kind of there. We keep cutting back, like Charlie said, they do a lot of tricks. So like one whole plot device is, and this is the dumbest thing I think. Now that I'm about to say it out loud, I just hear how dumb it is. If a symbiote takes on their true form, like meaning if he manifests into Venom, then he becomes a homing signal for Nulls. So much of the movie, he can't be full Venom because of, that reasoning. Meaning we don't have to spend money on a lot of full Venom effects anymore because
we get
he's not in most of the movie.
Head off to the side.
The head off to the side thing is, which makes no gosh darn sense when apparently doing Venom Horse is not your true form, or Venom Fish is not your true form. you can do Venom animals, but you just can't do humanoid Venom, I think, or like fully bonded Venom. I'm not sure. They don't really tell you.
I can't remember. If
you basically just can't spend money on full Venom in this movie. Yeah.
I can't remember if the Venom horse thing is before or after we figure out. Like
it's after. Oh, it's definitely after, because the whole Venom horse sequence. I was sitting there like, plot hole. Like, I was mad about that sequence, and I should have.
But like that sequence, that we talked about in the trailer, like that's really fun and goofy and weird, and that's all the energy we wanted. Plot hole aside, just like, oh, we're gonna make a Venom horse, and Tom Hardy's gonna have a hard time holding. No, like that's fun and goofy, and love it. And we, plot hole or not, that was an enjoyable thing to watch. And it's one of the only things I can say that about in this movie.
So you're getting in Tom Hardy's screen time isn't as much because most of these movies were on his back. This movie, like we said, it injects like a whole backstory and thing for Juno Temple's scientist character. Poor Chiwetel's in like a military drama movie about like a guy losing men against impossible alien forces, like some Starship Troopers junk. But he gets a lot of scenes, and there's like just cutting to all these other people and all these back to Null for a minute, like, and all these other things, so that when you actually look at it, like, yeah, there's far less Tom Hardy Venom screen time in this than any of the other ones. And so, yeah, this feels more like Blade Trinity than like anything else, you know?
Oof.
And yeah,
well, there you go.
And if you're like, I don't want to get too deep into spoilers, but if aside from further kicking the can down the road of confusing the hell out of us about how this is all a universe to begin with, and doing things that are just like unforced errors of confusion. You know how Morbius had Spider-Man posters in the background and all that, and we were all analyzing this? Well, yeah, like Eddie going to New York and how they deal with the whole fact of where Venom 2 left off with him going to the MCU and coming back. Like, if you're hoping any of this stuff pays off in a satisfying or like, oh, here, let's go kind of way, you're not. You're not going to come out of this saying, let's go in any kind of way. You're going to be like, what?
Like, the only way you'll say that after the end of the movie is if you're Donny Cates, because you're the biggest fan of Noel in the world, because you created him. Or if Cristo Fernando from Ted Lasso is your favorite actor of all time. If either of those two things applies to you, you'll be really excited by the end of this movie and about what this universe can do, which I think applies to maybe 8 people on the planet Earth.
But it's so confusing because like we don't even know like who would be the Null Sting, like who's part of that. Is it a big crossover that could go into the MCU, and like even if it's in the Sony Spider-Man universe, who the hell is even part of that, and like what is that at this point? Like is wildly unclear. So we're having a big event with like. We don't even have characters, so it's crazy. All right, so Venom 3.
It's a big disappointment. It's a big disappointment. I love these Venom movies.
Me too.
This is a bummer. This is a real bummer.
We're excited all year.
Yeah,
and I'm really bummed about this one. I mean, October's been really just. I think Charlie made the point. Like, it might be a wash for October being some blockbuster movie. Early blockbuster season.
I just think
going back to regular ways.
Don't make the sequels. If you put out
we need just horror films.
One and done. Joker, the first Venom. We forget the first Venom made over $800 million. Like, put out one and then call it a day, or abandon October, because now we're like, October's our date now for this franchise, and it's like, it's not working.
No. Put out horror sequels or just horror movies and
give us a Smile every year.
Yep, Smile, the new Schmile. We need that new Paranormal Activity, which became the new Saw. So we need that yearly horror. We need some indie horror stuff to deal, to get into. So yeah, but these October sequels, blockbuster sequels, have been trash, absolute trash. But I think Venom 3, to just say some positives, is why it's a 2-star and bring this all to a close. I think you guys will have fun when it hits streaming, right? Like when you can just laugh at it and pause and get real drunk, like it's going to be fun. So you're going to have a great time when it hits streaming. Venom 3, Streaming King. All right.
even then, just go in with be distracted. Be distracted.
Yeah.
So take booze.
Yes.
Tequila.
Booze?
Yes.
There's something else that you prefer?
Well, I'm going tonight, so that's why I will buy a beer.
I mean, we know you're good for a good IPA. We know how you do. We know you. We know how mother likes to relax. You go have fun.
This doesn't feel like it was made with a really sober frame of mind, so it doesn't need to be appreciated that way either. If you can get on their level.
I'm not even sure Tom Hardy's sober. I think Tom Hardy might be hungover through most of
this. Is it fun though? Like I feel like
it's
even
silly.
Venom 2 wasn't great, but it was still fun.
So that was my thing with it. I think there were parts that were really fun.
Okay.
There were parts that I laughed through, but it wasn't consistently that way. And that's what I think what frustrated me. I'm okay with a bad movie if I'm having a ride the whole time. Like I'm cool with sitting through something that's not great as long as I'm like enjoying myself. And this, for a lot of it, was not that.
You're taking it too seriously.
There are moments where it's not. Again, the really Venom Eddie centric moments are really wacky, and those are a good time. The whole time in Vegas, I think you'll enjoy yourself. There is an element of it. You're not going to leave. Be like, wow, I wasted all this time. I'm mad I sat here. I'm doing it. There's some fun to be had. It's just not consistent, in my opinion. And I told Kobe when we left, there were people in the theater. It was a public screening, so it wasn't just like critics there. It was other people, and that's one of the only times I left a public early screening and heard a bunch of negative stuff from people behind me that weren't critics. That were just like, "Oh man, they really messed this one up."
Oh no!
I never hear that from like a lot of general audiences at those screeners. So
yeah,
that was kind of a bummer. It kind of makes you realize, okay, it's not only me, or I'm not being picky. There's, other people are not enjoying this too. So, I'm not saying I'm never going to tell you not to go see a movie.
Oh yeah.
But like, just know what you're getting into. It's not quite the fun you've had the last couple of movies. Okay. I don't think.
Noted. If you had to rank them like first, second, third in order, what do you guys say?
2, 1, 3.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. No, 2, 1. It's a toss-up because 1, I think, has the better. That original Eddie meeting Venom stuff is so good. Like, they play some of that back in this one, and Tom Hardy's acting his butt off in that first one. Like when he's getting electrocuted or getting messed up by the MRI, when he's getting in the fish tank. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3.
The whole lobster scene is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3.
I like 2 a little better because I think the rest of the movie matches that energy. But I agree with Kobe. I think that 1 has the best of the actual like Eddie Venom like bit, as far as like Tom Hardy Eddie figuring out how to work with Venom inside him. 2 kind of plays up like the comedy, the rom-com of it, and that's fun. But yeah, it's a toss up there. I prefer 2. Kobe prefers 1. I mean, you kind of go either way, but 3 is for sure at the
bottom of the barrel.
It's not as big of a drop off as Blade 2 to Blade Trinity. Because I'm not going to say Let There Be Carnage was nearly where Blade 2 was in the, on the spectrum of good movies, but it is definitely like the worst of the 3 by a pretty wide margin.
All right, I think we've given this movie more than it deserved in terms of time, but R.I.P. Venom. As for the future, we'll talk about that when more people have been out to see this, and we'll get into what should happen. Ooh, that might be good. Like, we should do some editorial episodes. We should do one about like what should happen with this Sony Spider-Man universe before we have to go back in for Craven. That's still.
Yeah, I believe if you like symbiotes, I think we'll see more symbiotes in movies in the future. Probably because it's money and they can't say no to money. This is probably the end of this trilogy, though. Like they've said numerous times in the press, I think we are done with.
Yeah, I think Tom Hardy's done. Aside from some big, unless Tom Hardy gets like a major cameo in something, like I think we're done. So all right, that's Venom, The Last Dance. Sorry to disappoint everybody. Sorry to start your Friday off with
crushing dreams, man. Crushing dreams.
Yeah.
Well, my dreams got crushed.
Our dreams. It's not.
Yeah, I was all about this. All right, so Charlie's got to go. Thank you, Charlie, for hopping on and joining us once again.
Buddy.
We're in October.
Nice having you here.
Madam Web is still the best Sony Marvel movie that's been out so far this year. We're doing
it
great.
Is sadly it might end up being the best. It might end up being the best.
I think Craven's gonna be. I am sticking by J.C. Shandor. He is a phenomenal director. It's the best director I've seen do these Sony movies for a long time. So I'm gonna hang my head on that.
Well, we're gonna have you back, buddy.
We'll find out. We'll find out.
Yeah, we're gonna have you back. All right, Charlie. Thank you.
Good to see you guys.
Thank you.
Later, man. Thanks, Charlie.
Well, I'll just cut straight to it, y'all. In some different.
I was going to say, I just had one thing before. That was a great segue. I'm sorry. I was going to say for a note from the last segment, I wasn't stepping on anybody's sobriety about Tom Hardy. I was just saying he looks like he's hungover in this. I was not stepping for anybody in sobriety. We were not stepping on sobriety. Yeah. We fully support sobriety here at Comic Book.
Anyways,
all right, sorry.
So Agatha All Along, y'all. It is getting interesting.
Is it getting interesting?
I mean,
is it?
The last 2 episodes seem to be proving themselves to me. Let's just say. I mean, I've been a very tough critic. You guys know this, but last episode and this episode are really coming together for me. The story is kind of making sense. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about that because there's only 1 episode left. So I guess I've only liked 3 episodes.
2 episodes. 2 episodes.
Oh, there's 2 more?
Yep, 2 episodes. 2 episode finale.
Okay, well, then they have plenty of time to win me over. Okay. Gosh, a lot of things happened. I'm sure many of you guys have already seen this, but there was a lot of timey-wimey stuff we said in the show notes, which I loved. It was a really cool juxtaposition of kind of seeing where one of our favorite characters was ending up like popping in and out throughout the whole episode, which at first was kind of confusing for me. But then I finally started to like understand what was going on and getting it all together. We don't have to worry about the 7. The only thing that I really like am critical about is I didn't like the witches costuming thing in the last challenge. Like they all turned into like stereotypical witches, I guess. And like, it just seemed so Disney on the nose with like the Maleficent thing. And I don't know. It was just kind of corny to me. And there was like some lines, like there was this one line specific. There's like swords on the ceiling and Agatha was like, hey, things are looking up. And it was just so...
I mean, obviously that line hit for some people.
I just couldn't. It was just so corny. But we also had our huge reveal. Spoilers. Our huge reveal is that, Aubrey is deaf. If you didn't know that because of the, Funko Pop leak, then it was probably very exciting for you. I did not know. So I got really pumped when this was revealed. It was a moment. And it was, I don't know. How did you guys feel about this episode?
Vindicated, validated.
Yay!
That's why I have my wizard's hood on right now, because I've been getting a lot of side messages about y'all and y'all's takes on Agatha up here, and like, because
have you?
Oh yes, oh yes, I have. People have been as shocked as I am that I am like the Agatha cheerleader on this show. But this was Jack Schaefer and the writers and cast, and I've talked about these shows. I've written about Penguin and Agatha and proving that actor-driven stuff is like you can make any of this work with if it's still just old Hollywood rules. Like you build on actors, you build on performances. And you can sell anything that way. And this is an episode where I know we all are like, Aubrey's deaf, but like Patti LuPone, like in her just whole acting job in this episode was phenomenal. I watched it twice. You really should watch it twice just to kind of really get it, because even the opening scene hits different when you watch it back. But I was always wondering what they were going to do with this character, because they kept kind of seeding these little things in and people were picking up on the threads of her and what she was saying and then what would later happen in the show. But it is hard to do a timey-wimey episode. And this is something like, I'm not kidding, like worthy of Nolan, this episode, like terms of non-linear storytelling that thematically kind of really works, and how just tight all the pieces are, from when she keeps jumping these gaps to where she finds herself, to what attitude she has when she's appearing at different points, from like minute to minute, where she's like, we're cool, teen. And then she's like trying to kill him and grip him up and be like, we are so not cool. And he's like, whoa. And it's just like this whole concept of a witch living her life out of sequence, and what that means and what that does for your awareness, but also how that limits you in terms of like, you know, anxiety or looking crazy or all that stuff was, oh man, MCU Memento, All in the Game on YouTube said it's MCU Memento. And that's one of my favorite movies. That is a perfect kind of really good comparison. And I just thought this episode was so powerful and just so well done. And just, again, this thing is in its way illustrating, like, you know, the power of witchcraft, the power of what witches do, but which has always been a metaphor for like female power, you know, female intuition, female fortitude, you know, spiritual, emotional fortitude, whatever. All of those things come through in an episode like this, right? And the old Italian grandma and those scenes and all of that, fantastic stuff. And I thought the writing was really good, because I saw Matt cracking up at that line. But like the costuming thing, I thought had one of my favorite lines from Billy when Agatha's ragging on him about being Maleficent, and she's like, "Oh, you really liking your costume?" And he just looks at her and just says, "Well, if the cheekbones fit," or something like that. And I was like, "Oh, it's giving Queen."
Yeah, her line was great too. Like she said, like it was based on her or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, then he looks at her and says, "Prove it." And I love how that dynamic is changing, where Billy's just calling.
Oh, he's getting cocky. Yeah, it's great. He's like coming into his own.
Yeah, no, I mean, so like Patti LuPone, like great episode for her, just fantastic. And this is why you get actresses like that, to do that. And that thing at the end, I mean, even giving Lillian like the most epic hero moment in this series with just like the tower reverse thing, like that was insane. And I was just like, oh man, it made me feel. You unzipped me, you made me feel, and I don't like that. But yeah. Oh god,
surprising.
Special grenade, Matt.
Oh god, what?
So
why is everyone
so quiet?
Here's the thing.
All right, Joe Biden, let's go. Okay, I'm serious.
The number one, I apologize for the messages you were getting. I didn't realize you were getting so much.
I wasn't going to say.
I don't.
You are the top. You are the bigger topic of this.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of the strays. That's probably not going to change. Mostly because here's the thing. This is my favorite episode of the show so far. So I'm gonna lead with positive. All right, I'm gonna lead with that. This is my favorite episode. Why? Because of all the things you already said about the wonderful Patti LuPone, who she's been one of my favorite characters throughout. And I've said, right, like my favorite thing about the show was the interactions between all the witches, right? But that keeps going down and down as we keep killing them. So, hey, guess what? That's not changing as we move forward, right? So, you know, one down. That's as we start removing those from the show, those people. My issues with the show become more and more prevalent of like, okay, so once we get rid of the things that have been kind of distracting me from like the main through line and the plot of what this actual story is and Agatha and everything, I'm reminded consistently of why I don't care. But I care about that story. This is a Patti showcase, right? And so in that, it's phenomenal in the fact that like her story and seeing like I thought they actually did a very good job, because once you start getting in the timey-wimey stuff, it can go south very quickly. It becomes incomprehensible. You're like, what timeline am I? We talk about this all the time, right? In comics of like moving between viewpoints and stuff. So like that is hard to do. And I thought they did a very good job of like getting a lot of the bigger information out of the way and then hooking you into the emotional part with her. You know, I thought that part was great. I loved how they, if you are going to say goodbye to the character, giving her a true hero's exit I enjoy like that. I thought that was really well done. So it's my favorite episode of the show to this point. And yet the other stuff that happens, once you start taking these people out, I don't care about any of the other stuff that the show wants me to care about. I just don't. The whole reveal with like, you know, Aubrey Plaza and Rio and everything. It's just like that has big connotations and stuff for outside of the show. But what does it mean to this show? I don't care what it means to this show. I do not care. It doesn't change anything. I just don't like nothing. The big reveals of
I
this
agree.
show.
Okay, I agree with you there. Okay, because I wrote about this, and I do agree with you there. I think I'm more interested in just seeing her and Agatha have a will they like scrap or screw type deal, you know, more so than I am about what it means that she's the Avatar of Death. I'm more interested in another project.
Such a big deal,
right? And I'm more interested to see, like, if we get a cool flashback episode or one shot that shows Death actually on the shoulders of different people across the MCU, like going back and seeing her on little Thanos' shoulder, being like, "Hey, buddy, let's kill some people," and her being there during the Infinity War in like all the little places you could stick her as like a retcon interquel. Like, I'd be more interested in that than anything with Death in this show.
Right. Exactly. That's my point.
Unless
and
her and Agatha scrap and screw, you know?
Aubrey Plaza is amazing in this role and stuff. Again, it's just my point is like for this show as it stands now, you've removed we're almost there. You've removed almost every part that I care about systematically as the show moves forward. And my reason to actually invest becomes less and less, especially when we get showcases like this. So I'm very conflicted on this episode because I really liked parts of it, but they have to do with the character and the actress that they centered on and less to do with the show she was a part of. That to me is my biggest hindrance with the show overall. So, you know, I'm curious to see how the plane lands. I apologize for the emails in advance.
I have high hopes for this finale. I really do. And I'm actually like kicking myself for not being more open to the beginnings of this. And I truly believe that if the Penguin was not out and I was not watching that at the same time, I would have probably been so much more into this. And I apologized for not being able to keep them separate. That is definitely a me problem because, man, it's just the Penguin is so good. And comparing the two was definitely my worst, like the worst thing I did for sure.
But it's
like
not your problem. You shouldn't apologize for that. That is perfectly fine.
Are you all standing in the kitchen like
two shows?
Are you guys like standing in the kitchen holding an apple and an orange and being like,
yes?
No, it's perfectly fine to compare two shows at the same time. It doesn't even matter the genre.
And
especially when they're linked by one.
This is a crazy week to be comparing these two because this is a great segue into the Penguin.
This week I was better about that. Yeah,
is such an excuse. What a cop out. That is such a cop out.
Dude, we are so great. Like the three of us, we are definitely like hitting all. We have like not into it, super into it, and then I'm right in the middle. This is like the first time I think.
But that's a good slide right into Penguin. Like Penguin this week.
Yeah,
insane.
Coming to as Jack Black would say. Because Penguin freaking rules. Penguin rules.
But this week, yes, they're burning people. This isn't Agatha.
Oh my god! This needed a mature warning at the beginning, almost more than any episode, and that's saying something when we've had so many episodes go through. But this was this was the ushering in of not Sophia Falcone, but Sophia Gigante. Yeah. Oh man, this was an awesome episode, man. I don't know. Also, I will say this made me, and I've seen this kind of dotted around like social media and stuff too. Like, welcome back, Oz, right? Because like, you know, we had like mostly a whole episode like without Oz, and you know, it was amazing. So no shade there. It was fantastic. Not taking anything away, but I missed him. Mm-hmm. I missed good old Oz, just like, you know, picking people off and doing horrible things. And boy, he lived up to that today. He lived up to that this week, man. We got, is this the most violent? That's saying something after last week, but like, is this the most violent episode of DC TV ever?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, by far.
But it's
I think it's
HBO, Game of
Yeah, it's the
Thrones.
most violent DC content we may have seen. I mean, this episode had like not just somebody lit on fire, but like lit on fire in a way where a mother was just like, I can't let him burn I won't let him burn by himself, and just
Yep. Dude, that
hugged and
crushed
burned
me.
with
It
him.
killed me.
I mean, but it makes so much sense. It's such a good. When I saw it the first time and the second time, I was like, that's totally what my mom would do. My mom would totally jump and grab me and wouldn't let me burn alone, because she's nuts. When she loves me, and she's nuts like that. And then poor Johnny Vitti, just getting literal blood money off the table, like when he's just in the middle of talking and just gets, even Sopranos made it dramatic. He just got, I remember the first time I saw that, I like jumped in my seat. I was like, whoa, like when he just got his head blown off. I was like, oh my God, because this show is so nuts. And like, I can't stress this enough. The more we're getting down the back half, I've told you guys, like me and Matt have seen the whole thing. I can't stress to you enough. The first thing you need to do when Penguin is over is go back and watch Penguin again. There's so many details. I mean, this episode alone, like there's just little things that none of you can pick up on, that when you watch it back a second time, just the scenes were like some of the scenes we're seeing right now, with him taking Vic and them finding their space, and you have no idea the layers that this show is playing with until you get done and come back and watch some of this stuff. Let's talk about a couple things real quick, because we got to take a break soon. But yeah, I mean, Sofia Gigante and that whole thing was great. But just seeing Oz, we're getting into the middle of the series, and the fact, this is when I knew the show was a win. Is when you get in the middle, things get slow and sloppy. I was like really worried about Marvel Netflix vibes, where we're just like wandering the city for 2 episodes before something has to happen in a finale. But no, something happens in every one of these episodes, and the middle is just as strong as the beginning, as the end. Like, it's crazy. And just seeing like Oz go to a place of desperation and begin to lose it, and begin to lose that always one step ahead composure he has. This was why they needed Carmen Ajago for this series. Like, her scenes as Eve in this episode are fantastic. Just the way, if you watch the scene with Oz and her, like the way where she can feel the line where she's about to get in danger possibly with him. And so you can see her shift her whole thing around and be like, no, baby, it's not that. Like, I'm not leaving you. She knows his psychology like so well. Like how to be like, I got to get out of your way. I can't hold you back, all of that, which is exactly how Oz thinks. And one of my favorite scenes of the year was her and Sophia, even Sophia's whole scene and conversation. All right, keeping you on the edge of your seat of whether she's going to catch that bullet or not. And it's a very smart way that there's this trope in comics, Kyle Rayner's fault, really. Green Lantern Kyle Rayner's fault. That's called fridging, where something horrible happens to a female love interest character just to usually push a male character into an emotional kind of place. And so this was a very smart kind of turn on that between two women, and talking about violence towards women and where that puts Sophia. But it's also just a very good indicator of who Eve is and how smart Eve is, and why her and Penguin get together, how they're both kind of top-notch operators in this very dangerous, murky world that they got to kind of swim in. So yeah, man, the layers of this show, just like what it does, and just from moments of gross spectacle and action and violence to just the deeply layered character interactions is, this is a new standard, man. And I mean, Agatha I enjoy, but I enjoy Agatha. Like, I need to watch this for like the heavy prestige, and then like when I'm in a flop sweat after one of these episodes, then I need to turn on Agatha and just kind of chill. I need both.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that all the intrigue, right? There's so much intrigue here, but half of it is made up of just Oz not doing a good job at being not like finishing a skill or like finishing a job to completion, right? Like he tries to kill, even though he kills people in this episode, he tries to kill others and that fails. And so like half of it is like him just continually bumbling through things of his own making. and I just love that. Like I just love always like he's so good, he's so manipulative, he's so good at adapting on the fly, and it's good that that's the case because he creates these situations for himself consistently. So I just like that we didn't lose that part of the character, right? He's still a kind of a bumbling oaf in a lot of these things, but I love it.
Oh, I love when he's trying to game Eve in that one scene. He's trying to just spin everything he's doing into like, oh, I planned this. It's okay. I got it. And she's like, right, guy, get out of my apartment.
Nah, bro.
Nah, bro. All right. We're going to keep it moving because I want to get some other stuff done before Janelle's got to get out of here. So we're going to take a break. But when we come back, yes, we're going to do an RIP for the MCU. And we just got a new one for Star Wars, unfortunately, while we've all been sitting here.
What?
So we'll address that. And absolute Wonder Woman. We're getting into it. Stay tuned. Okay, Janelle, let's do a eulogy for the MCU here, Janelle.
I wish I didn't have so much tech on my table because I would 100% like pour one out for this. Deadpool called it. I have a TikTok from, I'm not going to put it on here because obviously copyright things, but like he goes, there's only ever been one Blade and there's only ever going to be one Blade in Deadpool. And we should have, I mean, I guess we did. We kind of called it there and so did they. It's gone, y'all. The MCU reboot of Blade is no more. It is no longer with us, and I'm so sad about it. I'm actually really bummed. I was actually looking forward to this big time, and my excitement for Blade kind of perked up even more by seeing a little cameo. Well, I guess a big cameo from Blade in Deadpool. So, yeah, this is kind of a bummer, and I'm not very happy about it. Are you guys bummed about it? I mean, obviously, I think this was pretty expected, huh?
I mean, the death flags were everywhere, to be honest. Like it was getting kind of obvious. Mahershala Ali jumped on that new Jurassic World movie. Yep. We were hearing rumors that the second director had left, but then the second director was doing PR saying, oh, there was a whole expose about Blade and all the crazy things that had happened. Rumored still, kind of crazy ideas about story and plot, everything from a period piece Blade movie to like one where it would have been a team of like female leads and Blade was called like the fourth lead, that infamous thing that got people so pissed. We don't know all the truth of all that. We just know that we all kept sitting here saying the vampire karate movie should be pretty easy to do. We did it in 98. It just seems like get Mahershala, set the vampires in a bigger universe, and give us karate vampire movie. But for whatever reason, we can't just do that. And we are in this kind of weird place where getting a Blade movie made, or like OG of comic book blockbusters in the 90s, is now impossible. So I don't even know what to say anymore. It just, like I said, I think I said a couple episodes back that you guys need to just kind of sit back and start realizing that there is a mass grave being dug, and you're going to find a lot of your Phase 4 characters laying right in that grave, right? Like it's in all of the ones they announced during the start of Phase 4. You're going to find a lot of that in that mass grave, and Big Bob's going to pile over that with a bulldozer, and we're never going to speak of it again. So, I mean, when I did this article, I just ran down the amount of unforced errors Marvel has made. They announced this in 2019 at Comic-Con. They bring out Mahershala Ali. They tell us about its development over and over, how close it is, all this. They put Mahershala in Eternals. They start a whole storyline with Blade and Black Knight together, and the Ebony Blade, and make us think that's going to be a thing. Then nothing. So, I mean, it's just indicative of what a mess this franchise has been since Phase 4. And yeah, it's crazy. And on the upside, though, there was a positive part of this, right? We lost one, but we gained 3.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, Are we excited about all of these 3?
Sorry, the reaction was amazing.
I don't believe anything anymore until
I was like, damn.
Right. Until it's happening.
You're finally learning. Yes.
I'm finally learning. You guys I'm jaded. Oh no.
Oh no. Oh no. Someone play Miley Cyrus.
Oh boy. But but it's crazy. So we got 3 new 2028 dates. I think it's significant only because I think X-Men is definitely one of them. I did a whole article of that. And it's the start of Phase 7. It'll be after Secret Wars. This is the chance to launch a whole new Marvel. They're staking out their claim. And I don't see how you don't make one of those an X-Men project. I just don't see how you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's gotta be. It's time, right? For that, especially when you're looking that far ahead. It's time. Like, we gotta jump in. You're already laying the foundations, right? We got adamantium and the thing and all that already. Like, you're already planting the seeds and all that. I know if my if my sarcasm there didn't.
Yeah, I'm looking at both of you today.
Lighten up that I wasn't a huge fan of that reveal or whatever. But
both of you dripping with sarcasm today. This is my job. You took my job.
Yeah, I even heard it. I was like, "Oh man, that sounds rough there." Oh, okay. So I don't want to be Debbie Downer here. Someone play the noise. I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I'm not trying to be. I'm very excited. By the way, there will be few people more excited than me with an X-Men movie MCU project. I will be like, let's go. Let's get that right. Like X-Men 97 laid a blueprint for like how you bring things back and do stuff. All right, let's do something new. Let's roll with it. I am all for that. So I don't want that to come off as like I just blah blah MCU. I like a lot of things with MCU. I really do. It's been a minute. I love. We actually, me and Anissa got into an argument yesterday about like our favorite our favorite Marvel Disney show, and Disney Marvel show, and we actually probably need to rank now. Once Agatha's done, probably need to do another ranking of those at some point. But like it's just I'm just looking for them to get back on track. And Blade stuff like Blade doesn't really. I don't know, that there are a few, you guys mentioned it before. There are a few things to me as cut and dry as Blade.
Karate vampire movie?
How do you it's an awesome vampire movie. Like, how do you, I don't know how it takes this, especially when you have a star of that caliber attached already. I don't understand how it takes this long and we should go through this many things. Also, I wouldn't have a problem with seeing him as Martian Manhunter. I saw that in the comments. Mahershala Ali is Martian Manhunter. Yeah, sign me up for that.
Oh, I'm doing hey, I have an article. That's great. You guys keep them coming. I'm doing a whole article. That's
a great pick. I see that.
Yeah, recasting MCU actors as DCU characters. I have some good ideas in here. I think I would like to see a Zoe Saldana, Talia al Ghul. I was very proud of that one.
Ooh.
I said Chris Evans as Booster Gold is one of my good picks.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
cool.
right. I'm trying to cook here. See, when I make a list, I take days
I like it.
and I think about it. But Mahershala Ali, Martian Manhunter is a great one. Thank you. I'll credit you guys for coming up with that one. All right. Anyway, back to the show. I have to write after this. I'm writing an article now, if you can believe it. But about the death of the Rey Skywalker movie, which is a quick aside. Yes, we'll address it. Blade ain't only one catching strays this week. The Rey Skywalker movie has just lost another set of writers. So, yeah, and people are now kind of looking like there's no development moving forward with that. So, another Star Wars movie, not happening. Welcome to the last, man, we're going on, 6 years of this coming up? 6 years of promised Star Wars movies. None of them. We were supposed to have at least 2 by now. 2022, 2024. We were supposed to have them like every 2 years, right? We're supposed to go Star Wars, Avatar, Star Wars, Marvel, Star Wars, Avatar, Marvel, Star Wars, Avatar. We're supposed to get all this, but no. We ain't got no Star Wars. Marvel's in God knows where.
Marvel, Star Wars, Avatar. Marvel, Star Wars. Yeah. I dig it.
But it's crazy. So that new Jedi Order movie is not a thing. And I don't believe in any of the James Mangold projects. I don't believe in Swamp Thing. I don't believe in First Jedi. I don't believe in any of this stuff. I've been jaded. I'm just happy that Janelle's where I am now. I mean,
I'm so
did a good job, and she's been on the podcast long enough to get to where we are. So, yeah, man. I don't know. People saying Booster Gold is too cheesy for Chris Evans. Do not remember how Chris Evans got in this business. Go back and watch Not Another Teen Movie and realize. I mean, that's Chris Evans at his best. Like Chris Evans being like sarcastically. Chris Evans is also really good because I think Chris Evans in real life is such a normal kind of like low key guy that never likes stardom, that he's so good at like playing up a douchey, smarmy, like fame bro. He's really good at that. And that's what you need for Booster Gold. Like he'd be so good about like just doing a thing about a guy who wants to be famous because he, and it's also meta funny because he's already really
bring
famous.
A natural charm. Yeah. Like he would bring a natural charm to the character that, you like, it's effortless.
You can hear him yelling at his robot assistant a lot. You can hear that.
Yeah. No, that might. That's not what I would have pegged. Like
that's exactly it.
Like, oh, who should play Booster Gold? But that's now that I think about it, that's a good pick. Also he was very good in Losers. That's an underrated gem. If anyone go see Losers, that was another former DC movie. He is great. Idris Elba's in that too.
That was like. Everybody in that is now like a star. That was such an underrated movie. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Idris Elba, Chris Evans. There's so many talented people. Zoe Saldana. Like, there's so many people in that movie. It was such an underrated movie. All right. So we're going off the rails now. All right.
So I know we got to get, I know Jill's got to run here.
So let's talk.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Buddy.
No. Here we go. We get to talk. I don't want to end the show in a jaded way. So we're gonna talk about something that I am not jaded about at all, which is Absolute Wonder Woman. Number 1, the Absolute Universe is here. Of course, we talked about Absolute Batman last time around, and now we have Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman's Absolute Wonder Woman rewriting the script. This Diana has grown up on the remote island of hell with a new caretaker. Which, by the way, we're going to get into full spoilers here. This day coming on Wednesday, so I just want to let you know before I go into more spoilers. Like, hey, we are going to talk about spoilers. If you haven't read it yet, though, please, pause us and then go read it and then come back because it's fantastic. But we have like Cersei as the new caretaker, the whole setup with Amazons and Diana kind of being removed from them and banning the word. There's so much that's done here within like the first 6 pages just to set the world. But I thought it was done supremely well, and it just hits the ground running. And then we see this surreal mother-daughter relationship start to form. And then we just get into badass magic wielding alien stuff as this moves forward. I'll say my like final thoughts and stuff for the end here. Janelle, what did you think of this launch into Wonder Woman?
Dude, this was so unique. It was just really interesting and cool, and it feels almost like Halloweeny, like it's such a good time of year to read this because it has like all of these, elements of hell and like creatures and um I don't know where we're going with this, but like even if just this was a self-contained read, just the story development and the character development and watching her grow up in this environment with this motherly figure. And it gives me the whole background of why she's there, what, her family did wrong, and kind of her mission. Like it just is perfect. Like it has all of the information there for you. You're not confused or left out or curious, like, oh no, I don't know this story. Like it's so well done that you can't help but just love it. And also, like, it's a little baby. Like, it starts off and she's just like a little tyke. And it's so, as a new mom, it just like kind of tugged at my heartstrings. Except I'm not just like leaving my baby to like fend for themselves.
Hey, it's how I raised both my kids. I would just leave them on the floor and tell them, survive.
Yeah.
Show me you are worthy of my line, survive. And, yeah,
Sophie, what did you think?
Let the snake come out in the backyard and see how they deal. That's how you got to go. You save them at the end, but no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I was surprised because this one more struck me like Ultimate Black Panther, in terms like absolute Batman is kind of like absolute Spider-Man in a lot of, or Ultimate Spider-Man. We were talking about that when we were discussing that one. This one's more like Ultimate Black Panther on the Marvel side, in which I feel like none of the switches are so great that I'm like, oh, this is wildly new. It's just a little change to like the lore, the mysticism, and the mythology around the character that kind of changes people's dynamics and their positions in this. And so like, yeah, the greatest interest to me was like seeing Circe be, Diana's mom instead of Hippolyta, and seeing how Circe approached parenting and all of that. But then how that kind of reflected the character of Diana, even from a baby, about how, the whole thing about her going into hell and taming these animals, but then befriending them and like caring for them, and the scenes and the still scenes of her and growing up in that montage that was really well done. And just how she began to like even influence Circe and change Circe a little bit. And, Circe warms up to her and, actually starts teaching her and caring for her and being a mother to her. And like, not because Circe feels that, but because Diana just inspires that in her. And that's kind of, it was really key. And like, yeah, I didn't think the battle scene was as entertaining, but like seeing the backstory of Wonder Woman, it was very almost like Superwoman, Woman of Tomorrow vibes to me in the way the story was told. And it was very well done. And I'm very interested to see more. I mean, what we get in the finale is we're just digging into this character at this point.
Right.
Like, yeah, seeing the full display of who this Wonder Woman is, what her powers are, what her objects are, like mystical artifacts and weapons and stuff. So far for me in the macro, it's a 2 for 2 for like, I like these absolute characters and I already feel attached to them and want to see them. Like,
yeah,
more so than just a limited run.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy that we're getting long. I mean, all 3 of the main books are on, those creative teams are on for, a year plus, right? So I'm very excited that we're in this for the long haul. We're not doing like, a shorter run for this and then like, hey, let's launch into something else. I'm glad that these are, and they're paced that way too. But man, what you had pretty much had me at, complete armor and skeletal Pegasus. You pretty much had me from that moment. And when she brings out the Buster Sword, which you can check out our full interview with the creative team on Comic Book, because there is a whole we talk about the Buster Sword, the very Cloud-esque Buster Sword. There's a whole thing about that, right? That has taken over with people bringing those Buster Swords to life in very different ways. But like seeing the magic and how that's mixed with it, and like her doing hexes and starting to lean into that stuff, I really want to see where that goes, because that really opens up a lot of possibilities. But I wanted to shout out, Kofi brought it up, that sequence that is like 2 pages, 1 page, 2 pages, where it's all layered and you see Cersei and Diana over time in their house. That whole sequence, and shout out to Jordi Belair as well on colors. Like, my word, and Becca Carey, amazing on letters too. Like, this creative team, like, it's a beautiful book, but like that sequence of just showing them growing up. There's parts where like Cersei's watching her sleep at one point, right? And that's such a they come so far from like her letting a giant snake almost bite her early on. Like they make so much progress over all these years, right? Then you see it all play out. It's amazing. Like, that did so much for me. So yeah, I cannot say enough. You can read a full long form where I ramble on about it for a while longer on Comic Book if you want to read about that. We've also got a whole thing up about all the changes to the mythology and things for Wonder Woman as well. So yeah, I really dug it. So far, we're 2 for 2. We got Absolute Superman coming up.
You've been picking out really good books. Keep it up. Let's go.
we got Absolute Superman coming, which I'm very excited about. And then also we have, even at Comic-Con, they teased Absolute Martian Manhunter, Absolute Green Lantern. Can't wait for those two. So Absolute Universe. I'm going to use a word that I never use. It's cooking. It's cooking. There we go. We're gonna.
All right, and that's the end of the regular portion of the episode. Janelle's got to peace out and get back to being mother. So we are going to say goodbye to her, but then we're going to dive into some deep geek after this. So Janelle, thanks for hopping.
Thank you so much, y'all. Can't wait to talk about Venom next week and my thoughts.
All right. Yeah. Enjoy that IPA. Enjoy Venom. Yeah, you've earned it. So enjoy.
Okay. Bye, guys.
All right. Now you're into the deep geek overtime quiet storm section of the show, where it's me and Matthew Aguilar taking you through all the most sensual geek news. Speaking of sensual, Alien. Yeah. You talk about intimate, sensual things. Alien.
What a segue.
Been a good week for Alien and Predator, 2 of our favorite genre franchises growing up from the 90s. We got the announcement that Alien Romulus, which is now out on digital, is getting a sequel film, which will Dr. Fede Alvarez is in talks to return and continue the story. And man, the president of 20th Century Studios went out. Boy, he just went out and just did a whole PR thing. He was just letting titles
by himself.
fly. He was just like, we got it. We got that Alien. We got that Predator. We got that Speed. We got this. We got that. Like,
that's what every interviewer hopes for, right? For like that kind of open book. Like, oh, you got a question about that? Yeah, here's like 10 updates on it. Like, what?
Yeah, it was crazy. But exciting updates too. So Alien Romulus is getting a sequel that will continue the story of Rain, Kaylee Spaney, and her brother. I think his name is I forget if it's David or what his name is in the movie, but her android brother. At the spoilers at the end, there's always survivors, and it's basically an ending like the ending of Alien or Aliens, with our surviving characters going into cryo sleep for a long journey. But we know in Alien that never really works out, does it? Those long cryo sleep journeys always go sideways. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the sequel. Part of me is secretly hoping that Alvarez does something wild, like take the franchise into a whole new timeline by having them in cryo sleep for a long ass time and wake up in some other place, the wrong place, and some other developments happen across the universe and they're in a really crazy situation. That'd be fun if we advance the timeline a bit, because we are between Alien and Aliens. There's 50 years between those first 2 films, and this is playing like 25 years right in the middle between them. So I would love to see them just go past Aliens and just do a whole new thing. Or tie it in Prometheus and take them to some weird engineer planet. Something cool. All right. But Alvarez did a good job. And I think for the second one, even though I was kind of critical of Alien Romulus, it'll probably grow on me like every Alien movie. Grow on me. See what I did there?
Yeah,
and then I think I'm excited for this sequel to play out. We also got an excellent Alien Romulus comic this week. I was kind of questioning because Fede Alvarez, combined with Marvel Comics and a creative team, to do a direct prequel to Alien Romulus that was about what happened on the Romulus Remus space station that left everybody dead and everything kind of in the situation we saw where we find it, as you've seen, if you're watching the trailer with us here at the beginning of Alien Romulus. And that was really well done, I thought. That was a really well done kind of tie-in comic that was what you want to tie in to be. It was actual information that was interesting. It quickly and effectively gave you some characters, gave you a setup, and basically did the Thing prequel where it's a disaster, everybody dies, but it sets everything perfectly in place for where we find the characters in the actual original, the film that we get after.
Yeah.
So
this is really good.
Yeah, this comic does no less than tell you like what, and the popular article on our site, what happened to the original xenomorph from the original Alien movie, where it finally ends up, and some good characters and a very tragic kind of haunting ending to it all.
Also some gruesome
gruesome
here,
stuff,
man.
So
shout out to anytime you do one of these. We talk about it. We've talked about it a lot with like Last Mermaid and some books where like they really give the creators some room to talk to the audience and be like, hey, here was like how this came about, or here was this where all of that commentary makes a huge difference, right? It's why people like to go see or listen to commentaries for movies, right? It really adds context. He does an intro. Fede does an intro to this book. Like the first page or whatever, like, hey, it was like always my dream to do a comic book. And then also, and he sets the table so well for what you're about to read. I just think that's like super important and kind of a lost art that like, I think it matters. And I just thought this book was framed perfectly. And then it did make me want to, go watch the movie.
Yeah, I want to see it again. I got so mad that it's not on streaming. It's only on digital for rent or purchase. I was so mad because the first thing I wanted to do was fire up Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
It really kind of already enhanced the movie for me because now that I know what they're stepping into. And that's what Prometheus has done for me. Like after Alien Covenant, now going back and watching Prometheus and knowing just how screwed they all were the moment they landed. It's a much better movie. And yes, to answer the comments on the live chat, there is Noah Hawley's Alien Earth series that is still on the way. Alien Earth should be, I think FX president said they probably are trying to drop that next year. So I think it's coming up in this next year of programming. And that's supposed to be unlike anything we've seen, which is the actual alien outbreak getting out on Earth. AVP doesn't count, guys. So yeah, I'm interested for that too. So good time to be an Alien fan. And Matt, but the bigger news that kind of blew me away is what they've done with this crazy Predator franchise. So holy Matt, cow. You wrote this up. Yeah. And it was only because you took it that I saw it. And I was like, oh, Matt's writing a Predator thing. And then I saw what it was. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. I love me some Dan Trachtenberg. 10 Cloverfield Lane. I love that franchise as well. And while, I've kind of dipped in and out of the Predator franchise, Prey was fantastic, right? And so for them to, number one, we already knew we were getting a follow-up, not a follow-up to Prey, but another Predator movie directed by Trachtenberg, and that one is Badlands, and that one's set for, again, in this amazingly revealing interview, set for a 2025 theatrical release. But wait, there's more in that classic infomercial way, because somehow, how they did it in this day and age, I don't know, but they've secretly developed a second Predator movie, and Trachtenberg directed both of them. And then they go into detail of like, the one thing that like they approached him after Prey was a success, right? They're like, well, what do you want to do? And he's like, I don't want to do a sequel to Prey. And they're like, okay, well, what else do you want to do? And then he came at them with several, kind of self-described bonkers ideas, and they greenlit two of them. And so this secret Predator movie is also evidently slated for 2025. And they just developed it in secret over here. So the fact that like to go from, and especially like what, Prey was in 2022, right?
Yeah.
So, that franchise had been kind of in and out with stuff. Some stuff hits, some stuff not. And to go, I feel like to have that kind of turnaround to where you have literally possibly 3 movies within what, a 4-year time span? Like that's pretty impressive. And I'm very excited because number one, because Trachtenberg is at the helm, but 2, I just really enjoyed what he did with Prey. So if they're embracing some of these bonkers ideas, I'm all game for it.
I think one's a secret AVP reboot.
Yeah, he did tease that we're getting something.
There, because 20th Century Fox is doing both these franchises over again and really revamping both of them. And I think they're going to do like it'd be interesting if they did some kind of crossover that, like, in the current Romulus timeline, that they just throw a Predator into that and do some kind of connective thing of, like, there's a Predator involved in all of that. That would be insane. While Badlands is just a straight up self-contained Predator movie, because you can do something like that on streaming. Because I think one's going to be streaming, right? Like, that was kind of the indication we got that one will be theatrical.
They didn't mention either way on streaming or theatrical for the other one, for the Secret one.
Yeah, I think that could be like a smaller concept thing that connects Alien and Predator in the same universe, in, like, without it being like an AVP direct thing, but just like, these things are in the same universe. That'd be amazing. So, and like I said, start small scale, start like Ridley Scott. Make the original idea. Make the original Alien movie again, but just with a Predator on the ship instead of a bunch of human characters. Basically, something that's low cost, low single setting, like just a spaceship, and even make it you can even make it a mostly silent film, just like maybe one or two human characters that get stuck, but just one Predator, one alien on that original kind of isolation, claustrophobia, Ridley Scott original film thing where the Predator's hunting the alien. That now we're cooking. That's not big budget. That's not anything. That's just a couple makeup effects in a single setting. I think we could do this. So anyway, we're excited, obviously. I'm really excited that two of my favorite 80s, 90s franchises are back, baby, and that we're cooking. So you better keep an eye out, because we're going to be all over this thing. Matt,
I'm excited for the Predator universe. That's cool, right? Man. That's
crazy. I'm gonna go watch Prey after this. It's almost Halloween. I'm watching Prey after this. Matt, final topic of the day before we get out of here. Now this is just bubbling up on my radar. Now I'm seeing the commercials for this meta thing. Like, have we just crossed the line and cracked the line on, I wish we still had quick save sometimes, most of the time, but like, right now, like, have we just cracked the line on VR gaming with this Batman Arkham Shadow game release?
So this might be, we've been looking, I feel like, especially like avid supporters of VR have been looking for that killer app. And while there are some amazing experiences on VR, Half-Life Alyx being kind of the standard, there hasn't been that one that like kind of bled over to mainstream where it was just like, oh, we have to go get this VR headset to go play this game. It doesn't get much more mainstream to me than Batman, right? Especially if you're tying it into the Arkham series. And there was a previous Batman experience with VR, but it was very limited and it was very much like an experience. Batman Arkham Shadow is what I think is throwing a lot of people. Is this is in many ways a full Batman Arkham game. So number one, set in the Arkham universe. That's, after the Suicide Squad game, that's a big deal anyway, because people are kind of looking for some for some repairs to be done, right, to the reputation. But like having it tied in that way is big enough. But then I think what's flooring a lot of people is like, detective mode, combat, like the full, story, and like being immersed in this world. Those are all things that were hallmarks of the Arkham games. And those are all prevalent in Batman Arkham Shadow. Like, you're getting really a full-on game and a full-on Arkham experience. And I think that's what's really surprising a lot of people. That said, it's a MetaQuest, Quest 3 exclusive, which, by the way, Quest in and of itself is the most approachable headset because number one, it's the newest iteration of the headset that can, you're not tied by cords and all those other things, right? You're much more able to move around, and it doesn't bring that extra hindrance to the environment. So like, but it's still its own thing. It's an expensive, it's not cheap. It is also exclusive to VR, and that's always going to be a little bit of a barrier to people jumping in. But this could be the one, or at least one of the ones. To me, it's never going to be about one game. It's always going to be about several games going, hey, this is a legit viable platform for you to buy instead of a console, right? Or maybe in addition to a console. But this is going to be one of those games that people mention, I think, because right now it's sitting at, now granted, there's still reviews coming in. So it's only 12 critic reviews and 36 user ratings right now on Metacritic. But right now it's sitting at an 83 for critic reviews. And for 36 user ratings, it's sitting at a 9.6. So it is, the people that have played it are really digging it, both critics and audiences, general audiences. So I will be interested to see if this can really kind of have legs and be kind of a system mover, because VR needs those, right? That's the big thing with VR. It's like, if you're going to jump into that thing again, this is also, because it's VR, right? First person, you're throwing batarangs, you're looking at all detective mode stuff, but you're doing it from like the point of view of Batman, which is one of the things that might turn some off, but is also going a long way to like making people like, oh, I feel like Batman. Like I'm staring out from the cowl and I'm looking at
made
stuff.
A Batman voice just to say that.
Yeah, man, you gotta. It's no Christian Bale.
Kevin Conroy,
I'm Batman.
No.
I'm Batman.
I am the knight. All right.
But it's I'm interested to see how it goes. But this is getting rave reviews so far, and really is delivering a Batman experience for people who want to jump in. I have not had a chance to try it myself. I don't have a VR headset. But I have thought about that. If Nintendo would ever announce a Switch 2, so I can just figure out what I got to do for that, then I can think about VR. That's how I feel.
You know me, I'm a hustler. I gotta keep one eye open, so I don't tend to be putting those on my face. You know what I mean? Gotta keep one eye open. But in all seriousness, we're gonna be, it was just an interesting thing. It has broken through, it seems, to mainstream to get people, so like one of the funniest reviews I saw for this was somebody praising and saying this game really does achieve in VR the experience of making you Batman. Consequently, I also know I am nowhere near good enough physical shape to be Batman now. So it's done. It is basically said it's done the service of curing me of my Batman delusions. So yeah, interesting stuff. We're gonna keep an eye on that. I always love the Arkham series. So that's our deep geek dive. I think that's it for the show. We're gonna get out of here. Matt, thanks for hanging around and digging into all that. We are Comic Book Nation, and we are the podcast representing comicbook.com. Be sure to go read comicbook.com. We have a ton of new articles on the newly formatted, pretty looking site. Obviously, this week is Venom week, but we have a lot of great features. We are becoming a very feature-heavy site where we have all our kind of geek experts really breaking down some of the deeper stuff. We got a good Predator movie order list on how to watch those. We have all the Venom breakdowns you need for Venom 3, whether you're going to see the movie or not. Matt and the other comic team have all the big spins from this week's comic books, including Absolute Wonder Woman and everything you need to know and think about that. Go and check it all out. And our anime and gaming teams are cooking like crazy now that fall anime is happening, and a lot of big gaming things are happening, including Fortnite's big Chapter 5 finale event, which is coming up soon. So check out all that on the comicbook.com site. Check us out on your favorite podcast platforms and on our YouTube page. We are Comic Book Nation, and we are out of here. Peace.
Deuces.
Venom.